The media capability here for our Digitas Boston region. I just want to say a really quick welcome and thank you for coming. I want to give a quick thank you to BIMA for putting on these awesome educational series. I think this topic is personally one of my favorites, so I'm excited to hear what everybody has to say. Also want to give a quick thank you to Adherent for sponsoring today's event. And just to show how small this industry is, Jill and I worked together at Digitas. Is it 8 years ago now? Something like that. It's been long enough. So I'll hand it over to Jill. She's going to let the panelists introduce themselves, and we'll move into the panel and then some Q&A, and that'll be it. So welcome. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Rob, thank you so much. Just do some quick introductions from our end. So I'm Jill Delpa, Senior Sales Director here at Adherent. I've been with the company for almost 8 years. I lead our East Coast team spanning across New England and also New York. And super excited to be here tonight. I started my career back here at Digitas, worked at Rob, and spent 4 years on the media planning and buying side. I unfortunately did not get the privilege of working in this beautiful office, but it's really bittersweet to be back here. So thank you to Digitas for hosting us. Quick little blurb about Adherent. So we are an advanced machine learning platform for advertising, and we really took a big bet on machine learning and predictive modeling 10 years ago when we started the company. And so we have always been focused on leveraging statistical modeling and not relying on any one singular data point to decision on behalf of our advertisers. So this is a super relevant and timely topic for us that we're just excited to join in this discussion tonight.
I'm Kara Sheehan. I'm the Associate Director of Analytics at Havas Media. I've been with Havas for 5 years now, working across a variety of clients. I'm super excited to be here in product measurement in the cookieless world, so it should be a good conversation.
Hi everybody, I'm Michael Consolazio. I work for Group Connect here. I lead the media tech group for the Boston office. I focus mostly on financial institution and been here for 8 years.
Hey everyone, I'm Mary McCoy. I'm the media planning lead at Klaviyo. For those of you who don't know Klaviyo, we are a marketing platform enabling more personalized email and SMS marketing experiences for more than 100,000 brands like Girlfriend Collective, Hintwater, and Secret.
Nope. Did everyone get that? Okay. And I've been working there for more than 4 years, or almost 4 years now, so very exciting.
Awesome, great. Well, let's get started. So, with the end of the third-party cookie approaching, there's a heightened focus, of course, on first-party data. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of first-party data, and more specifically, what some of the benefits are on relying more on first-party data moving forward.
Yeah, I can take that from the brand side. So first and foremost, consumers are in control now, and that's a really good thing. We are enabling our customers to let us know what we should know about them, and that's the way it should be. And now we don't have to infer anything about their data, right? We know what they're telling about. We know what they're telling us about them. And we can use that to develop really personalized strategy and more relevant experiences with more accurate targeting. And for an example of how third-party cookies aren't always the most reliable, take out your phone, look on Instagram, go under your settings, click add interests, and you can see what you're being indexed for from advertisers, what you are interested in. And so I did this the other day because I was very curious. I was like, how accurate is this? And I saw that I indexed for Mike Tyson, the golfing channel, and fishing. Now I know you guys don't know who I am. You know nothing about me, but I can already see my fiance cracking up because I am the unlikeliest buyer for all three of these things. And it just goes to show, are these advertisers wasting millions on me when they think that they have this accurate picture of who my profile is, but I will never buy from them. And so I think like first-party data is going to enable us to have that accuracy, which will help us control our costs. We can get rid of that spend waste, really improve our return on our ad spend, and decrease CAC, and I think that's a fundamentally good thing, obviously. And then the second part of that is it's forcing us to learn more about our customers. And what better way to gauge what makes your business successful than why your customers are your customers and like what makes them tick and why they buy from you. And so I think it's going to be the rising tide that lifts all boats, where we have to learn more about them and really empathize with what they're going for. And sure, there's the con that yes, you'll lose your targeting and you'll lose attribution, but cookies don't determine the success of your business. Revenue determines the success of your business. And I think we can be a little bit more creative with how we get about that in a more reliable way, focusing our efforts on customers that provide a higher lifetime value and are willing to share that data with us.
And then just to piggyback on that, I think while it is a super valuable tool and it will be more accurate, I think one of the other cons that we have to recognize is scalability. While it is super accurate, you're not going to be able to reach everybody in the same way that you're doing today, and you're going to have to use other approaches in conjunction with first party.
Yep, all really good points, guys. Thank you. Yeah, you guys talked about how we'll lose certain access to specific signals, and which means that first-party data will even be more important. And I think it's interesting because at the same time, consumers are expecting an even more personalized experience. And so, in keeping that in mind, how does first-party data factor into creating that super personalized experience?
Yeah, so I can also tackle that one. There's different levels of personalization. You can do one-to-many, you can do one-to-one, but I think the biggest thing is there has to be that value exchange when you're capturing first-party data, and it's really like a contract to say, you're giving me this information about you so I can do this for you. You should always ask what's in it for them. Why should they take the time to give you more information about who they are? And I think in the past, it's always been like, we knew everything about them, and then we figured out what to do with that data. And now we can be a little bit more creative and say, here's what we want to bring them. Okay, what data do we need to bring that to life? So I see this all the time with our customers because, Klaviyo is really just all about how to do more with your first-party data. And it's something as simple as like, okay, well, I can ask you your birthday because I'm going to send you a special gift on your birthday. I, want to provide value when you buy a specific ingredient from me, and then I'm going to show you how to use that ingredient in your cooking so that you can get more out of the product. You're running low on razors? Cool, I'll send you a reminder to make sure that you buy them before you are in that oh crap situation. So these are all ways where like brands can really empathize with what the customer is coming from and getting data in a way that's beneficial for them, but also incredibly valuable for the advertiser. And I think, it really just comes down to there's so much more first-party data out there that we don't even realize we can capture. There's the behavioral data on our website, and we can be a little bit more creative about how we capture those interests. Is there a user that always buys a fuchsia lipstick? Cool, let's show the model wearing fuchsia lipstick and not like a hideous orange. These are ways we can be a little bit more relevant. And I think just at the end of the day, we have to explain that we're using that data in a way that we're going to continue to build that customer profile and get a better understanding of the customer for their own benefit, and that's what's going to drive retention in the long run.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like everyone at the end of the day wants that more personalized experience. I find myself getting frustrated if I've been on a website before shopping for certain things and then I'm getting ads for either things that I've already bought or things that I'm no longer in the market for. So completely agree with that. And I think, building that trust with consumers is so crucial. So more broadly speaking, let's talk about what will the landscape look like from a data privacy perspective in a cookie-free world? Michael, do you want
So I can take that one, yeah. So I think we also have to take a step back and look at what caused this issue, what is the disease, and not just address the symptom. Cookieless is a symptom of a larger issue where people want more control of their data, they want more things to be transparent, they want basically building trust with our customers. So that is the problem that we're actually addressing versus cookieless. And so how are we addressing that properly is really what we need to think about. I think at the core, we have to really think about a clear, concise consent platform that we work in conjunction with our customers, publishers, advertisers, to basically create a relationship that's mutually beneficial across everybody. I think in order for advertisers to do that, you need to really grab multiple people within your organization. It's not just a legal issue, it's legal, it's risk, it's marketing, it's all those different groups where they come together and say, these are the different things, technology even, because what's the mechanism going to be? And really identify how are we going to do that in the proper channels, proper ways, so that our customers truly understand what's happening and they see a value to give their own trust to you and also give them information. So I think at the core, it's truly about consent. I think we're going to start seeing, and I think a buzzword that everybody's been seeing a lot more now is progressive consent. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. For too long, we've been seeing these blockades. You go in, it's like an all or nothing. Otherwise, hey, I'm not looking at the site, or I'm just accepting everything. I have no idea what I accepted. Instead, I think we're going to see more throughout your whole experience when it actually makes sense. Hey, I can give you this information if you let me know what you're interested in. I'm going to give you more interesting content. Great, I will give you that so I don't see things that I don't care about, like you were pointing at earlier. So I think that is really what we're going to start seeing. It's going to be a mutual beneficial relationship, and we're going to see consent truly be number one.
Yep, I love that. Anyone have anything to add?
I think you nailed it.
I agree. Nailed it. But yeah, so in thinking about that level of consent and more teams on the brand side working together to really towards this one goal, how are tech partners and publishers working together to create that positive experience for consumers? How are they actually like implementing that as it stands today?
Yeah, and again, I think it's collaboration, right? It's looking at what is truly the reason why it is and not just try to collect everything. I think it's working with your various technology partners and actually having a tech stack that truly interacts with each other and it's not so siloed. So I think we're going to start seeing everything come together. Consent management platforms we've been talking about for a long time, but beyond just having that in place, where you have a mechanism to truly understand what the user wants and keep it versus I have to do it every single time I have something come in, it will then talk to your tag management system. So it's only firing the tags that are relevant. It's talking to the content management system, so that it's again showing only content that is relevant. So having that cohesive ecosystem is truly what's important.
Love that. So let's talk about, in the changing privacy landscape, like how do we think consumer behavior is changing? And we've talked about this a little bit in the terms of, consumers want that more personalized experience, but do you think there's any changes taking place from their perspective?
Yeah, I think, in a way that we need to build trust with them, it's really just going to come down to transparency and making sure they understand what we're asking of them and how we're going to use their data and doing it in a way where they're fully in the know and it's not like a fine print type treatment, and then giving them the tools and the flexibility to opt up or opt down as they please. So, we like choices. I think this whole paradigm shift is coming about because consumers want more, they have more to say, and they want to take back that control. And so I think we need to provide them the platform, whether it's a consent management platform, but giving them the opportunity to have that autonomy over how their data is used and be able to change it willingly. And I think a perfect example is, we're fickle, right? We may want to hear from a brand, but on our own terms. Maybe we don't want to get a sales promo email every week, But we can choose to say, I don't want to unsubscribe. I just don't want everything that your brand is sending me. And so the more that we can put the control back in their hands and let them build their ideal customer experience, I think the more they'll trust us and really stay loyal to us.
Love that. I totally agree. I feel like I subscribe to so many emails and I get so frustrated when there's an all or nothing response. Like I don't want to opt completely out, but it's way too many emails, so scale it back a little bit. So I think this really brings it back to the brand. Like how are brands, ensuring that they're collecting the right information, but being, responsible so that they're not, getting hit from whether it's, a financial perspective or a reputation perspective. Like how are they mitigating that?
I mean, I think the only way you really can mitigate that is, again, the collaboration, working with your legal teams, and kind of doing what you say you're doing. And honestly, there's so much legislation coming out. I think everybody's freaking out right now about CPRA, which is going to start in January 2023. So just making sure that your teams are staying on top of that, and really, again, being transparent of how you're collecting, updating your privacy policies, having a clear privacy policy across all your platforms, all your sites. I think that's the thing that we run into a lot is with especially some of these bigger brands, they acquire all these different sites and they're not consolidating to one consistent platform. There's different policies across all. Teams are not talking to them. That's going to be a huge problem as we move forward in this privacy-first world and as legislation becomes stricter and stricter, which we know is happening.
Great, so we really covered the consumer experience, the desired, personalized experience that customers expect. Now let's talk about, from an advertising standpoint, how we'll reach these customers in a cookie-free world. And so let's talk about some of the benefits that machine learning can provide as it relates to that cookie deprecation and just really the increased privacy regulation as well.
Yeah, I can take that. Specifically for machine learning, I think that is one of the tools in the toolkit that we have to embrace. As we already said, that first party is, at the end of the day, going to be king. That's going to be the most relevant, but again, it's not scalable. You need to enrich that, and AI or machine learning is truly what's going to do that, or at least that aspect of it. It's going to enable you to have lookalike modeling. It's going to enable you to fill the gaps. If you don't have all the full information from your first party, utilizing AI can help you do that. I think we have a various scale of different targeting strategies that you can utilize, from declared to pseudonymized to anonymous, and that just fits within the scale. And every advertiser truly needs to have a very firm testing strategy with clear KPIs of what truly works and test into those different things. Even with AI and machine learning, it can also help you with your second party. I don't think we're talking enough about second party data information. While I don't work with automakers, but a prime example is if I'm an automaker and we're seeing pushes to sell more cars online, Ford CEO came out saying, hey, I want to sell everything online. If you truly want to do that, you need more information because not everybody's coming to Ford specifically. So I want to do a second party integration with Kelley Blue Book or AutoTrader, etc. Getting that information, filling the gaps of who I know, reaching to these different prospecting. Because if my first party is not going to help me with prospecting to the same degree as having the second party information.
I think what you're saying really highlights that the customer journey is not linear, and we need to be able to find a way to unify all that data to sync it to one individual customer profile, and then from an acquisition standpoint, that's what we can build our lookalikes around. We could build a segment of our best VIP customers that spend at really high ticket prices and buy from us frequently and bought from us recently. And maybe they left a customer review and we pulled in that data from an API. And maybe they frequently, submit surveys telling us about how well they received the product. That is someone that is taking the time to invest in the brand. Let's find more people that look just like them rather than say, well, I think this person kind of matches my ideal customer based on the pages that they visit here and based on the time that they spent on this site. Like, we can just get a little bit more focused and figure out how to harness all that data to really, do more with it.
And I think another thing I didn't even mention was beyond just targeting, you're gonna need AI and machine learning for measurement. There's definitely going to be gaps. So I know we're gonna talk about that a little later, but that is another aspect. So it goes beyond just one thing. I think we truly have to take a step back and see, just because we do a certain thing now and we've done it, doesn't mean we can do it in the future, and also doesn't mean we can do it exactly the same way.
Yeah, all really good points, completely agree there, especially on the fact that AI just provides that additional scale. We've seen it year over year where really our predictive modeling is really that prospecting tool and that audience extension tool. And time again, first party data is so important. We use that on campaigns, but 9 times out of 10, like predictive and that AI will actually outperform. So to your point, Mary, like the proof is in the pudding, especially if it's like a performance specific effort. So as we prepare for this impending change, what do marketers need to consider as they prepare for privacy-forward tests and solutions, and really preparing for the demise of cookies?
And I know I hit upon this a little bit, so I can elaborate more. I truly think it is testing strategies, really planning for it. It's not going to help you if you're just like, yeah, I did a cookieless test, I did something. If you don't have a true strategy, identifying what your KPIs are, how it's going to work, how you're going to share the learnings, it's not going to be fruitful. You're just wasting money. There's not really any help there. I think you need to look at the variety of different things available, test into multiple, because there's going to be multiple use cases, identify what those use cases are, and from there, you're going to need to use contextual, because guess what? Everything else is not going to be scalable, so you're going to have something that's going to replace some of your prospecting, and you're going to have to get into old school contextual. Beyond that, use technology, AI, some of our other partners for advanced contextual, reading the context of the pages, etc. You're going to need to use, like I mentioned, second party, first party, which is going to be your most granular and smaller scale, but it's going to be your most valuable. So maybe you're going to be worth spending more money, because guess what? That probably will convert. And then somewhere in the middle, there might be, and I'm going to say might, this is my personal opinion, is what's going to be available from browsers. That's those different solutions that we hear from Google. I'm a little skeptical there to some degree, because as we saw, the original thing that rolled out was cohorts, and honestly was not very privacy first, and GDPR knocked that down. So then we moved to topics. Who knows if that's really going to be a thing? And again, it only works in Chrome, and so I think we always keep focusing, oh, the cookie's dying. Well, it's already out of Safari, it's not in Firefox. Let's stop saying the cookie's dying. It's dead in some platforms. It's just Chrome, and they're not giving it up because it benefits Google, and that's why they keep pushing the data. But that's my little soapbox. But instead, I think we just need to look at all the tools and really look at what is asynchronous, what can work across everything, and not just put all your money into one thing. I mean, as much as Google wants, let's go in one single stack, great. But I think you need to move a couple different, I think you need to utilize multiple things, and it's going to be a multi-pronged approach.
I think beyond that too, like the nature of our work is going to change. We're going to have to cross-collaborate with engineering, business intelligence, and I think in the past it was just, we had a pixel placed on a website and that was it, like self-serve, super easy. But now we have to bake into that, we have to bake that time in, and we have to be able to, work with our teammates to set up conversion APIs, and it's just a different level of technical scope and collaboration that is involved, but it just pushes us. We work in an industry that's ever changing. We have to adapt. It's not going to be as easy as plug and play and push, and no, it's going to increase the complexity of our work, but I think we're excited about it.
Love it, all great points. Carrie, did you want to join anything?
I was just going to say, there's a lot to say that kind of piggybacks off that, but I think they covered it for now.
Okay. So now we can get into really the loss of certain ad targeting tools such as third-party cookies or alternative identifiers like Apple's IDFA. And since we've known for some time that the end of the cookie or the end of the cookie has already actually been here, do you feel like at the end of the day most advertisers are prepared, or do you think that they're still playing catch up a little bit?
Yeah, I feel like this really comes down to like the sophistication of the clients, right? Like we've seen our more sophisticated clients definitely go through the right steps and prepare themselves, but I think less savvy, I don't want to call them archaic brands, but a little bit more basic in terms of their targeting strategies or activation strategies, rely more on audience data are just kind of still playing catch up. So I think what's really gonna be important, as we all discussed, will just be first party data strategy and kind of also too building out the tech stack. So IDFA going away for Apple, those types of things, integrating with MMP partners, those types of things, just to really able to integrate with data in the best way possible. I think a lot of brands are still, that's still a new space to them, right? Like how SK Ad Network, everything that we kind of hear, those buzzwords around Apple, like how are we best activating and how are we best gonna partner with that data that's now available that's so different from what we had before. I think just speaking from the agency side, coming from Havas, we see a lot of agencies partner with these data platforms. Havas, we have a solution called Converge, but that's really just able to provide these clean rooms to our clients, right? To partner with their first party data, along with all this data we already have available for us, just kind of in more secure production.
And the only thing I'd piggyback there is, again, it's not going to be one solution for every customer, every advertiser. I think for some of the smaller businesses, they might be fine with direct walled garden relationships. If that's where they're converting mostly, you probably can get away with using that technology. Other ones, maybe it's more AI if they don't have as much of a robust first party. So again, I think it's truly trusting into the various elements and what works for them.
Yeah, all great points here. And I know Carrie mentioned clean rooms briefly, but let's talk more about what measurement strategies brands can really implement to ensure KPIs are set up accordingly.
Yeah, so I think as we kind of already touched on, it's definitely going to be a multi-pronged approach. I think the most holistic measurement strategies are going to come from MMF, MTA solutions. We've already seen kind of those more sophisticated clients really either already using them or start to use them and switch towards that as the impending cookieless world. I think in terms of the other prongs, we're definitely going to see from a tactical perspective, as we mentioned before, conversion APIs, a lot of partners kind of coming out with that. So really just pushing our activations there and what we're able to scale on. And then I think there's going to be a larger focus on some of those more brand-focused metrics. So brand equity, attitudinal lift, those types of studies where you really can get at the consumer in a different way that's not exactly that they convert for us, yes or no. I think kind of with that, and I know we kind of touched on this too, but I think historical benchmarking is going to be a really important part to establish the baseline for what that world is going to look like. And then I think too, just as we've all heard, like that universal ID solution. So kind of coming off of that clean room will just kind of be a really critical part of the future for us. So.
Great. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I mean, I think that hits the main points. I think a lot of it is just kind of really just building on, now's the time to test, now's the time to build those proxies, build your baseline, I think, and utilize those different elements that can help you identify what's going to work in the future. My other big thing is, again, we have so much granular data now because we track every little thing. When you look at other channels that are available, like TV or out of home, digital out of home, there's barely anything that you can do, and maybe there is going to be a shift to say, okay, well, just because we used to be able to do that, now we're going to be using these other metrics that are lower funnel, as you were mentioning. So it is, at the end of the day, going to be somewhat of a shift in thinking of what is truly possible and what's really needed.
Yeah, really good points. I think we're going to have to reset and manage everyone's expectations in terms of the data that's available because it just will look a lot different at the end of the day. So that really wraps up our questions. Would love to turn it over to the audience for any questions that you guys have.
Maybe this is a question for Kara about attribution, because typical attribution is based upon the log files of the cookie-based data, the impression, click, and conversion. So how are you advising clients in working with multi-touch attribution in the cookieless world?
Yeah, I think we are, for us, as I mentioned, like we are advising clients to implement those types of solutions in order to kind of establish a new way to look at those KPIs. But I really do think that conversion APIs on specific platforms are going to be really an important part too, as important as MTA, right? Because I think Meta, Facebook, for example, like that is such a scalable platform, but I think with this loss, with this data deprecation, like if we don't have the conversion API in place, then there's only going to be so much we can do. So I think that that's really going to be where the focus is.
Yeah, and I totally agree. APIs, I think, are actually going to be the bigger piece, as well as advertiser-owned lower funnel pieces. I struggle with MTA a little bit just because I don't think many people have had a successful load of an MTA. A lot of them have gone away, and some of them are really still dependent on cookie even today, or log files, which we know are going to go away. So I think even maybe more push, as Kara said earlier, like MMM, I think is going to be a bigger aspect, as well as those APIs and tying everything together and honestly proxies to some degree.
Great question, Bob.
I work in sales for a first-party data collection platform, and we solve for other use cases, but that's really our bread and butter. And sometimes when I talk to smaller brands or brands that are a little bit behind the curve, they'll say like, hey, I know I need first-party data, but I don't really know what to do with it when I collect it. So, like, what's your suggestion there on, where to start really for a brand?
I would say, look at your most successful customers. What do they value about your brand? And then figure out how to back into it with the data that's needed. So for instance, like, I'm going on my honeymoon in 2 weeks. What is going to create a personalized moment for me? Well, maybe a special, sand bottle to capture sand in with St. Lucia on it, because that's where I'm going to be vacationing. And the way they get about that is by putting on their form, like, hey, we want to send you something really special to commemorate your big day. Where is your honeymoon? What's your wedding anniversary? And then a year from then, obviously we're assuming that they're going to be like touching them in between, but a year from then they can say, hey, we're really excited to celebrate this big upcoming venture. We want to send you something special. So I think, like, again, you just have to ask what's in it for them, and then the first party data it becomes a no-brainer. Think about when you shop from a brand. You're giving them your t-shirt size, that's first party data. You're giving them if you like tennis over lacrosse, that's first party data. So we can find a way of creating these like progressive profiling experiences on the website, and then also what they're doing on your website. So you can get a little bit creative with how you're tagging what certain signals mean about the individual. Are they a window shopper? Do they typically look at a lot of pages on, a lot of product images and just kind of bounce and they're just curious? Are they specifically only buying from a certain product category from you? And so I think it's just like kind of unlocking what you can do with that data and then saying, but how else would you get that data? I think customers are willing to share more about themselves with us if we provide it in a way that's we're going to actually like build that relationship with them.
Love that. Great answer. Anyone have any other questions? Yeah, Tom.
So, with cookies, it felt like there was a really big race to the bottom over the past decade as far as like trying to track performance from a conversion standpoint. As brands and the brands that you guys are talking to start to rethink what is measurement, what is data, what is performance, other than like first-party data strategies, are you seeing any of the trends? Like, are they talking about how do you move up funnel more? How do you think more holistically from a media perspective? Or is it really like how do we activate first-party data?
I would say now it's truly how do we utilize, collect properly, and activate first-party data has kind of been the main focus. I think as things are moving away, that's truly where they're saying, this is what I need to get now, get in front of it, because if you wait too long, that's actually privacy. Having a privacy-first solution is going to be a differentiator for advertisers, and that's what's going to put some brands ahead of others. If you don't have the infrastructure in place and don't have the ability to collect properly, you're missing a whole audience that your competitors are already going to collect in the right way and use it. And I think that's the other thing, collecting information that truly is going to be useful, not just asking for everything just to have it. And I think that's what we're seeing is taking a step back on what's important to the customers and what we actually need as an MVP or minimal viable product.
Can I have a follow-up question? Yeah. Is anyone talking about like wallets in Web3 from like a first-party data standpoint, or is that too far out there?
Honestly, I think Web3 is a little too far out there right now. I think there's a lot of excitement around it. I think it's just too much of a Wild West as far as what that's going to look like, where we're going to go. It's also kind of the point of Web3 to some degree is that things are going to be separated. You're not going to have as much control. So I think as things shake out, as you see different things come to fruition, there will be more of a focus in Web3. I think people are looking, how can I dip my toes in? But from an advertising perspective, it's very difficult. There's not a ton of solutions. It's really just...
We're happy to talk about Web3 anytime you want. We're ready to go.
We have a connection.
Love it.
Talk about control though, like from maybe a centralized perspective, that there's less control and decentralized?
I don't think it's less control. I think it's less understanding and less confidence, because I think there also brings in other issues from an advertiser standpoint, brand safety issues, and control of those different pieces. I want to control where my brand is and understand truly what else my brand's going to be around. And I think by having some of those decentralizations, there is less control from an advertiser perspective on what else is going to be there. So there are other considerations other than just going to the new world.
We're happy to talk afterwards.
Yeah, very interesting point right there.
Anyone else have any questions?
Another question.
Yeah.
So you talked about data clean rooms. The cost-benefit analysis you've seen in terms of match rates with data clean rooms versus the traditional onboarding platforms like LiveRamp. Have you seen, higher match rates going that way, or are the LiveRamps still, do they have a place when clients try to onboard and match their first-party data?
Yeah, I think we have. I also think we're still just getting started in this world. So I think anyone who tells you now, like, oh, they're testing a post-cookieless solution and this is what it looks like, they don't even know where they're going yet. So I think, yes, initial data has shown that, but I think in terms of what it actually is going to look like, I don't know if any of us truly know at this point.
Do you think that we'll have a choice in that? So what I've been seeing is that publishers are kind of forcing data and targeting and measurement into their own sort of clean room environments, right? So it's a way for publishers to allow access to their data without giving that granular data. So do you think we'll end up in a world where marketers are just working in several unique walled gardens, right? Because that's kind of the case in Facebook and Google today, and the smaller publishers are just following suit because privacy concerns.
I mean, I honestly, I agree. I feel like potentially, yeah. I mean, I think similar, I don't want to say the same answer again, but I think similar to what I just said, I don't think we know, but I think, bring up a very good point. We could just all be acting in these silos. It leads to my point earlier about the conversion APIs, that is just going to be activating on a bunch of individual silos. So I think it is going to bring back, how do we tie those individual places where we are back to our bigger holistic solutions, right? Like MMM,
Yeah.
and what are we seeing there, and kind of how we tie the two together. What's the correlation? Knowing that we don't have any other options other than to act in these individual types of environments.
Clients have gotten very used to, advertisers have gotten very used to really specific reporting and attribution and understanding that I'm going to spend $1,000 here and I'm going to get 15 conversions that are valued at this. How are you guys kind of forcing or forging those conversations with advertisers to help them embrace the unknown in advertising, which has always sort of been a part of our industry? We've just been spoiled with pretty invasive measurement and targeting tactics. How are you guys sort of shaping those conversations as we move forward?
I think it kind of goes back to the point I was saying before about the less savvy versus the more sophisticated clients. Just personally, I work on more sophisticated clients, so I feel like these conversations have been a lot easier than it would be on someone who's a little bit less well-versed. I think, too, it's almost like a change management, right, in the type of what they should be looking at. Are we looking at brand metrics for these types of activations? Are we looking at lower funnel? I feel like when you have high ROI and conversion goals, obviously they think of all platforms as, right, what is my output? But is there a better metric that we should be kind of pointing them to, and kind of stressing the importance of this is not, from a data perspective, going to show you great results, but how else is that affecting the consumer?
It's interesting to say that. A lot of the way you put it, less sophisticated clients have less money to spend in advertising dollars, and they really want to know that the $50,000 total marketing budget is firmly going in the bucket of getting those 10 conversions. And I find those conversations can sort of be the toughest, but I completely agree.
Yeah, so I think it's all about like setting those expectations and like the education part, especially on your guys' part from the agency side with your clients to manage those, just what to expect and kind of resetting the benchmarks, like Michael said earlier. Any other questions from anybody?
What are you most excited about with the death of cookies as opposed to doom and gloom? What's the positive?
I love that question.
Don't tell me there's no positive.
It's just a bleak outlook. We're all trying. No, I mean, I guess from my perspective, it's gonna force us to have to work harder to build those relationships and to really understand our customers. And again, I think that is only ever gonna behoove us. Outside of marketing, it's gonna tell us what we need to invest research and development in. It's gonna tell us how long we can expect our customers to be with us. We've avoided it for so long because we could. And now, and I think also too, like ignore that. As a consumer ourselves, do you want the world knowing everything about you? I don't want my medical history out there. Like, there are things people don't need to know. And so at the end of the day, we're all humans. And I think that it's gonna make us, brands are gonna communicate with customers in a way that is more authentic. And that's gonna be what determines their success, and that's gonna be their compass for business growth.
I mean, the other positive, I think, which is what you hit, it's just gonna be a more transparent environment overall for everybody. I think it's been too much of a black box. Granted, if you understand cookies, in some ways you might think it's better because I can delete it at any time and then whatever, but I think overall, hopefully it will make language a lot more digestible and make it more transparent so people understand what's actually happening in the environment. I mean, we've already had conversations, there's legislation, so at least it's getting out there in the ecosystem, so it's becoming more mainstream and not just something that gets talked about people that work in the industry.
From the activation standpoint, I guess I'll say, I think it's very easy to just put more money into what gives you more conversions, and I think when we're not able to say that, how do we get smarter with how we activate on these things? How do we hit the consumers in a more meaningful way? What are areas that we haven't explored before because we simply just didn't think they would look good for us, that we've always wanted to explore, that we should be really focusing in on? So I think it's going to be more collaboration. I think as marketers, we're going to be smarter and just kind of think outside the box.
Yeah, so I think it's like, we're more excited about first-party data, the better utilization of that, and also consumers understanding why and how that is even used. But I think that's already improving quite drastically.
Do we think that third-party data has a place in the cookieless world?
I think in the cookieless world, not really. I mean, I think you're gonna have to have direct relationships, and that's really what it's gonna be. I think third party is gonna be harder before it phased out. And it's also it also depends on what your definition of third party is too. I think anything could be somewhat third party to some degree, but I think we're gonna see just a shift in the industry. Just like as everything else evolves, the way that we think about it is, like I said, it's gonna go away and we're gonna see just move into other areas. I don't think third party will be as powerful as it is now just because we just won't have the same abilities.
And we're all going to go through it, so it's all going to be a relative shift in expectations. I don't think anyone is going to come out on top, and if they do, it's because they're taking the time now to reduce that dependency.
Anyone else? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Huge thank you to BIMA for putting us event on. Thank you to our amazing panelists for joining us tonight, and thank all of you for showing up. So have a great night. Thank you so much.